Welcome to Inclusive Voices Media. This is Glendale City Council Candidate Series. Local elections matter because the decisions made at the City Council level directly impact everyday quality of life, from public safety and housing to business development to traffic to parks and, of course, community services. That's why it is so important to stay informed, to get involved, and most importantly, cast your vote. In the interest of keeping our audience informed, we wanted to bring you this very special candidate interview series featuring the people who want to serve on the City Council, on the Glendale City Council. And in the interest of fairness, of course, and equal treatment for all of the candidates, we followed the same protocol for every single interview. All candidates were invited and given the opportunity to select a time slot on the same interview day. Each interview was limited to 10 minutes. All interviews were conducted live to tape. That means we recorded the interviews continuously without stopping, without editing, without retakes, without do-overs. Additionally, every candidate was asked the exact same questions with some follow-ups, and no candidate received questions in advance. Our goal here at Inclusive Voices Media is to provide voters with a fair, transparent, and consistent platform so you can hear directly from the candidates and make an informed decision at the ballot box. Interviews are published one at a time and in alphabetical order. Thank you for watching. Please remember to vote. I'm Silva Gharibian. Welcome to another edition of the Candidate Series, where we talk to people who are running for Glendale City Council. And today, here with us, Ronnie Gharibian.
Hi, Silva.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to jump right into our questions.
Sure.
And the first one is about housing.
Okay.
Glendale is under increasing pressure from the state of California to build more housing, while residents are concerned about traffic, about neighborhood character, and infrastructure impact. How would you balance the need for additional housing while preserving quality of life in Glendale?
Sure. Thanks. First, thank you for the invitation. Housing is not necessarily it's needed now. We always need housing. Shelter is one of the most important issues that humans we have. We need to have a shelter. But what happened is, yes, state says we shortage because of the lower interest rate we had through COVID days. People are not selling their homes. They're staying put. So less properties come into the market for sales purposes. As far as the rental, our population is growing, but not with that speed that we short in renters, because renter population doesn't add that fast. But we have the newlyweds, newly graduates, and all that they need their own space. But with today's inflation, most of them still stay home with their parents. They don't want to move out. These are all statistics that it's out there. But granted, because we have the state mandate, because it's shortage all over the U.S., not just California, and California follows nationwide mandate, and they say every city should really come down and find locations to give them, if it's next to a transit and all that stuff, which we know the details. If I talk about that, I'll talk about for about an hour. But narrowing it down, we have to use common sense, logic. It's like art. You can't put an eyesore building in the middle of a single family residence. I mean, that doesn't make sense. It has to be in a format that, does this house, does this building belongs to this location? So we have to study it, make sure the location is proper for the type of the building. Just like somebody wants to build a mansion in the middle of the hillside, people go and say, hey, this does not belong here. This is more of an average farmhouse style, or whatever it is, or ranch style. So first, the conformity to the location. That's very important to know. Do we have locations? We have to put enough studies out there. Instead of rushing into it to satisfy state, we should tell the state, hey, give us time. Let's take our study. Let's do our research. Let's find location that is conforming to what you want us to do. And or maybe we can break it down to 10 locations on smaller houses instead of one big location and 600 units, which we know is coming down on where old Sears building used to be, but 620 some unit. Okay, that's downtown Glendale. Doesn't affect really. It affects our infrastructures, our police and fire that needs to service those tenants. That's a different problem. That's a budget issue. We talked about housing. I don't want to go there now. But at least it's in a location that it handles the type of the property versus if we want to do it next to across from Glendale College where the parking lot is. It's a residential area where the Royal Street goes up. It just doesn't make sense. So we need it, but we need to study where has to be conforming to the area, has to make sense for that neighborhood. We have to have obviously the budgets and all that. Again, that's a different question. I'm not going to get into that, but a lot more studying has to be done before we actually take action.
Thank you very much. It just so happens the budget is the next question.
Oh, okay.
So we can go right into it. Glendale's facing significant budget pressures and must make very difficult decisions involving reserves and hiring freezes and deferred capital projects. Yeah. What are your top spending priorities, and where would you reduce costs if revenue declines further?
Right. Well, obviously, budget is an issue for everyone. Just today, I don't know what day we're going to announce this. The inflation came out at 3.8% for the month of April, and probably May will be 4%, especially with this war going on right now between Iran and the U.S. So the inflation is going up. That means everything goes up. Expenses goes up. City is no different from any other household. We have expenses, right? They have expenses. I even heard another day a candidate was talking about the potholes. It's a priority. I'm sure they know it's a priority, but they're short in funds. So they said, listen, it's a priority, but we have more important things. Let's push this aside. I understand it shouldn't be everything. It's a priority, but sometimes you have to be more of selectiveness. Obviously, Glendale Police and Fire is our biggest expense we have. But at the same time, it's the most important and most valuable thing we have because Glendale is because of them. If we didn't have the Glendale Police and Fire, the safety the way we have, Glendale wouldn't be Glendale. That's one of the reasons. What distinguishes us versus, I don't want to name and insult another city, but a city in Los Angeles that is less favorable than Glendale. The only difference would be the safety pretty much. If not, there are a lot of cities close to downtown LA. So are we, but there are closer ones. Do they have the same safety as we do? No. So cutting that budget, I would say it would be very dangerous to touch because that would completely change our characteristics of our city, which we don't want to do that. Is there line items to touch? Most probably there is, but the most important part is city pretty much reacts and works based on contracts that they signed with third parties. Those contracts, most of them are old contracts that just keeps renewing itself. My first thing once I'm elected and I'm in, is to bring all the contracts in. I don't care if it's being expired 6 months from now or 3 years from now. Bring it in. Let's go over it. Let's see, are these contracts that when the time comes for renewal, can we put more RFPs out there, be able to get it cheaper and better? Because that's the important part. If we can cut from those contracts, that's a huge number. But again, cutting, you will not fix a budget, just like any other household. If your income is less, you have more expenses, you cut the cable bill, that's not going to fix your problem. Your problem is you need more income, you need more revenue. But more revenue doesn't mean taxes. Taxes, that means you're taking from your own residents, so taking from Peter to Paul, from one pocket to another. So you can't keep tapping to the residents, ask for more taxes to cover the shortfall you have. Again, the shortfall is not because of the inflation, the mistakes, the contracts. There's so many things I can list why we are where we are. But obviously, you need to have the experienced people sitting on that council who know these things, who can plan 5 years, 10 years ahead instead of day-to-day basis. City cannot live paycheck to paycheck. You have to plan 10 years ahead, just like you plan your retirement, right? You have to be able to plan ahead. But at the same time, we need new revenue and not by raising taxes. How? For example, we have Americana. That brings in a lot of sales tax because of the sales we get. 1 3/4 of everything gets sold in there, from the Gucci to Louis Vuitton to the Cheesecake Factory. So we get that sales tax. Obviously, we cannot have 10 or 2 or 4 Americanas as like, but we can have things similar to it or the extension of it. Restaurants, events. So we can, like Pasadena has Rose Bowl. They're bringing in a lot of revenue, or the Hollywood Bowl down the street from Cahuenga. These are Starlight in Burbank. These are extra revenues the cities can bring in from outside money because Americana is bringing in outside money is not the same people. So there's a lot more done to the budget, but it has to be studied one line at a time, one issue at a time, and not necessarily priorities. Right now, they push other things out because they're short. But if you plan it right, because this thing, if you don't watch out for it now, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. And time flies. We're in June already, 6 months passed. For the year, it almost ends. Of course, the city year, it starts from June. It's not calendar year. But nevertheless, time flies very fast. And if city doesn't watch out for this shortage, it's going to be much worse next year. So
Thank you so much. We are almost out of time, but I want to give you an opportunity to answer a question about mobility. Glendale is facing congestion, pedestrian safety concerns, and pressures to modernize transportation. There's a bus rapid transit line. You mentioned that in your housing answer. What is your approach to improving mobility for drivers, bicyclists, pedestrians, and considering the local businesses?
Well, safety obviously is first, especially pedestrians crossing the streets and all that stuff. So safety is very important, but narrowing down the lane to force the driver to slow down, that's not going to work. The drivers will find other ways, other streets that makes it even more dangerous. So if you're going to congest traffic by narrowing down lanes, by putting a bus lane, so instead of 3 lanes on Glen Oaks, now it's 2 or 1, so they're going to have to drive less. Well, that person not going to take that street, going to take Kennett, more dangerous, more pedestrians, so even worse. So you have to be careful what the consequences are of what the actions you're taking. So you have to plan way ahead. I think that obviously when the speed cameras are coming up, which they're in works of being installed, police force has to be more present on the areas that we know it's speeding is there. We have to have, if you remember, we have to have that old crash cars we put on display so people drive by and remind them, hey, listen, if you drive fast, this is what could happen, a car that it was. So things like that to remind them, educate them. Educating is the best way, whether it's from budget, housing, speeding. People have to be engaged. They have to be educated because people sit there, they have their own ideas, which nothing wrong with it, but if you talk to them and educate them, you can go a long way to slow everything down.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
I want to give you an opportunity to tell our viewers, listeners, and readers how they can find more information about your candidacy.
Oh, thank you. Yes, my website, ronnieforglendale.com. ronnieforglendale.com. There's phone numbers, but that's the best way to contact me. I'm available for anyone, anytime, any of my cell phones. I'm fine, so it can be found.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.